Hi everybody, my name is Alison and I'm here to give you some book reviews and all things book. I am a massive reader. I have been reading for as long as I can remember. I've always been a massive fan of books and I'd like to just be able to share my love for the books with you guys and get your opinions on what you think of the books, how you like the ones that I have read or suggest ones to me that I haven't read yet. I'm open ears for all of them. I will read practically any genre, and I will always give them a go, especially if someone recommends them to me, to let them know how you think they are. Now, I'd like to show you, first of all, as my introduction video, I'd like to give you a little insight into me and the books that shaped me. Now, I will show you 5 of the ones that really stick out in my memory because of how much they influenced me. And some of these go back quite a long time, quite a few years, and I'll explain why. So, these are the books that shaped me. Now, the reason that I've laid it out like this is because I'm going to go over each one by one, but as you can see here, 5 very different ones, and one I don't even know the name of, so I'll explain why. So the first one is Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. Now, I read this when I was around 14. I had my library membership and I used to go to the library on a regular basis and rent books as often as I can. I got to that age where the kids section just wasn't quite doing it for me and I wanted to get into the older section, but there was an age limit on renting adult books at the time and you had to be 14 and I wasn't 14 yet, and I was so desperate to get into the section with the wider range of books. And finally I got old enough and I was allowed in, and it opened a whole new vase of doors for me because of this. I was absolutely overjoyed at being allowed to do this. So one of the first things, and this is one of the first books I rented out of the adult section, and it was Boy's Life. Now, I've always been a little bit fascinated with the horror genre as well. I've always liked scary movies and things like that, and I remember I had a memory from childhood of somebody talking about the Silence of the Lambs and the film Silence of the Lambs, that is, and how terrified and scared they were of it. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I should watch this, and I watched it and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I thought for myself then, I'm going to try some books, and I have since read The Silence of the Lambs and loved that as well, I have to say. That was one of the ones I did really enjoy, but this is probably one of the first ones that I read under the horror genre, and I have to say, I didn't find it horrific at all. It was fantastic. I still think back this with most fond memories because it really did affect how I felt reading it. It took me on that journey with them, and I don't know if it was because I was kind of on the cusp of adolescence as well, just a wee slightly touch older than the main character, but the plot is based around this young boy called Corey. He's 12 and he's kind of just at that point where he's leaving childhood and going into adulthood, so he's still got the reflections there of kids and the imagination that kids have that you lose as you grow up, and his world becomes this magical, crazy place. All these things, unbelievable like things happen, but at the same time, mixed around his home life, real things are happening, and the worlds kind of combine. It takes you on this magical journey and of this little boy's imagination, also while mixing in some murder mystery, and at the end, everything kind of culminates into this conclusion on the mystery and the murder being solved, and it just blew me away, and I absolutely adored it. I loved it. I've seen some reviews looking at them from recently that said that a lot of people found it quite slow. Now, I haven't read it for a few years, but I don't really remember it being slow. I remember it really pulled me in from the beginning to the end, and I just loved it. And since then I have recommended it to so many people. I absolutely adored it, and even if you don't enjoy it yourself, try and see. Honestly, it's worth it. for me, it's just one of the ones that really did shape me and what I chose to read and how I chose to read it growing up as a 14-year-old girl. It was just really left an imprint on my heart. So the next one, right, this is going to sound really strange, but I can't actually remember the name of this book, again from the library, but this started off a massive obsession from about serial killers for me. I don't remember exactly what the name of the book was called, but it was based on the story of Jack the Ripper. Again, I was about 14, 15 when I rented this, and I read this book. So did my sister. We both read this book, and we were just absolutely like blown away by it. We hadn't really known the full story of Jack the Ripper before that, and it went into detail. Every victim, every part of what happened to his victims, the whole works, and then it would then put a theory of who he may be, and it was very believable. I was convinced that they were correct by the end of this book, and they did point in the direction of somebody with a medical knowledge, and they did try to pin on a specific person, which again, being so long ago, I can't remember what it was, but that opened a whole new realm for reading and finding things out for me. There was a stage where I went through that. I was so interested in the mindset and the whole thing with serial killers. I researched and I read more, and I read things about Ted Bundy, I read things about Ed Gein, I read things so many of the different ones. So, even one who shares her name with my deceased gran, Mary Bell, who was a child killer, and James Bulger's killers as well. I spent so much time reading and really interested to find the motivations and why people would want to do things like this. It really started an interest in me, to the point where I did, as part of my school curriculum when I was at school, for English you had to do a solo talk, stand up and talk in front of the class, and I did my solo talk on Jack the Ripper due to this book, and I told everybody the details of what went into the book, and I think slightly traumatised some people. But there used to be a website as well called, I'm sure it was the Crime Database, something along the lines, and it had the full details of loads of serial killers, everything you could find, and I used to read about so many of them. But Jack the Ripper will always be the first one who inclined my interest because of that book as well. So that definitely shaped part of who I am today as well. So the next one, Stephen King. Don't get me wrong, I do love Stephen King. I've read a lot of his stuff. I don't honestly remember which was the first one I picked up, but I had seen the TV adaptation at the time, like this particular one that the photo was based on. That film wasn't out yet. It was the one that was done as like a TV movie. That was out, and I had seen that. And I genuinely can't remember if I read the book first or if I saw the adaptation first, but it was one of the first ones I ever did read, and I was absolutely like, whoa. He's got a way of really getting into your mind, and especially with the whole premise of this book being that this creature manifests itself to be your biggest fear, and that really, really resounded with me, because I'm like, that's just horrifying. It's a big book. It's a long book. They've got there's two stages. There's children and then there's adults. It does take, but it is so worthwhile. Incidentally, actually, the childhood part of their series was based the year I was born. So I found that quite funny. And looking back at it now, even rereading it again, it's aged well, considering the only thing is obviously the language that gets used, but again, a lot has changed in that period of time, and some of the terms and references that Stephen King does use in his books are a little tad vulgar for my liking. There's some things that I do think you could probably have said that a little less, if that makes sense. The only things, and that is probably the things I don't like about the way he writes, plus, and everybody will know what I'm talking about who's read this book, the scene that was put in there, I just don't know if that was really necessary. I mean, it was not put in the films for obvious reasons, but I'm just, even then now, I'm like, but that and The Stand, I read both of those, which is one of the biggest books I've ever tackled, but I loved both of them, and I've read a lot of stuff since then. I love how versatile King is. When it goes from things like It to The Green Mile. The Green Mile, oh, it just wrenched my heart. I loved it. And like his short stories, like the adaptation for The Shawshank Redemption and The Body, which became Stand By Me, the film, all of these, when he turns it round, it's just, oh, it's fantastic. And I don't think he gets any, like, his style has evolved and come on as things have gone on, and so many of the stories that he's written really just would keep you up at night, which is what you want out of a good horror book. And there's so many of them. Pet Sematary, the Tommyknockers, all of these ones, and they're all so different. Like Dreamcatcher, oh, there's so many of them. I do really do enjoy his work. I said that this one did. I said that one definitely left an impression on me, as they say. So this one is Over the Edge. It's by Jonathan Kellerman. Again, I have read nearly all of the Alex Delaware series, which there are quite a few now, over 30 of them now, and I was introduced to these by one of my mum's colleagues when I was still a teenager. He passed them over to us to read once he'd finished with them, and I read the first one, which is called When the Bow Breaks, and I really liked that one as well, but it was this one really, it blew me away. I love the fact that as well as a kind of typical like police detective looking at a murder mystery thing, this man is a child psychologist. The main character, he's not a policeman, but he is, and he's best friends, and he's in cahoots with a policeman, which gives him the kind of inside that's there. Even then, it's the relationship between the characters is fabulous. But to see that the psychological knowledge and that's in this book especially, but all of the books really just take them to the next level. This book in particular just blew me away because the plot was just, oh, it was fantastic, and the twist is unreal. I can't really say much without giving it away, but it was one of the ones that's like, to be able to kind of project that, you would need to have the same kind of knowledge as he has. I said I still read him to this day, and I have when I read his first novel, I've just been hooked ever since then, and I can't say I've ever really disliked any of these books. Some of them have been better than others, as you tend to find in these big series, but most definitely Over the Edge is the one that stuck with me and probably always will. Now, last but not least, Harry Potter. I'm not apologising for this even in the slightest. I've read all of the Harry Potter series at least 15 times each, at least. I've listened to the audiobooks. I obviously do love the movies and things as well, but the books were ripped for me, being such a reader. I was a bit late to the party with the Harry Potter books, so the first film was already out before I'd even heard of them, and book 4 had already been written and released at that point. I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life when these books came out. My mum and dad were in the process of getting a divorce, and there was a lot of things changing. One of my aunties was dying, and there was a lot of things happening in my life at that point, as well as being 15 and being in the midst of like hormones and exams and all the rest of it. So there was a lot of things going on, and these books just became a lifeline for me at that point. They really did keep me going. My sister and I were literally queuing up to read them, as soon as we finished, because we got the 4-pack box set, and we rushed through them as quickly as we could, because once we realised how good they were, we were completely hooked. And then after that, after everyone was released, we were there on release date buying them. I queued at midnight to buy the books. We were there for opening days, we were there for it all, and I will for always catch the deliberate reference there. Be a fan of these books always. if I always said this, if I ever had to go and mastermind, I would choose Harry Potter as my specialist subject. I know them inside out, and I have such a fond feel for them that I always will do. To the point where, as a 35-year-old woman, I have Harry Potter mugs, Harry Potter cups, Harry Potter blankets, Harry Potter everything. And like I said, I'm not ashamed of that, and I will always be this way. Again, always. I'm not doing it on purpose. So even though, like I said, I've tried audiobooks as well, I am all-rounder when it comes to these things. I do like an audiobook as well. Stephen Fry is fantastic. He's such a, I do feel with audiobooks the narrator makes the difference when it comes to this. Without the right narrator, the book is just spoiled, and Stephen Fry is just perfect. He's just so good for the books. He just makes them. He really does. And I couldn't see anybody else doing as good a job as he does. But definitely, if you do struggle for a read, or you maybe think like it might be the way to do something a bit easier at audiobooks, then definitely give these a go. They're fantastic. And for the books, I really do struggle to pick a favourite when it comes to picking any of the Harry Potter books. But if I had to pick, I would pick The Chamber of Secrets, I think, because it was before everything got massively dark, and it was, but at the same time it was still eventful enough. It was still really, really smart. Harry was more into himself. He was more understanding things about himself. He was starting to grow up, and just I really loved the plot line. But I can't say I disliked any of them. I loved them all, and I will always do. And no doubt I will go back to reading them again soon. But so that is the 5 books that shaped me. I do have obviously many more. I've read hundreds and hundreds of books in my tenure of reading. I started reading at quite a young age, and I started I couldn't even possibly tell you when I fully started reading. Actually, I used to, as a very youngster, I used to like the Goosebumps books. I started in the kind of horror genre quite young. I read all the point horror books. I read so many different things. I remember one of the ones I bought from the people who used to come to the school and sell books, the book people, Ramona the Terrible. I remember that one. There were so many of them, and it was I just loved all of them. It was fantastic. So that's my books that shaped me. I would love it. This is my first video, and I'm hoping to be able to share some more with you guys on a regular basis. So if you could like my video and subscribe to my channel, I would be very grateful. And I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much. Bye.